All right, let's talk about something you see literally all the time, but maybe don't think too much about: display and video ads. Now, these aren't the ads you see when you're searching for something. Nope, these are the banners, the pop-ups, the videos that show up on all the websites, apps, and platforms you're already using every single day. You know the feeling, right? You check out a pair of sneakers on one site, and then bam! For the next week, it feels like ads for those exact sneakers are everywhere you go online. How in the world does that happen? Well, that's exactly what we're going to pull back the curtain on today. So, at its heart, this type of advertising isn't always about getting you to click Buy Now. Its main job is often way bigger. It's all about building brand awareness. Think of it as this really powerful combo of super precise, data-driven targeting and the creative punch of great visuals and sound. To really wrap our heads around this, we first have to understand how these ads are totally different from the ones you see on a search page. We're going way beyond the search bar here. Here's a good way to think about it. Search ads, they're kind of like a listing in an old-school phone book. They're there for the person who is already looking for something specific. But display and video ads, they're more like a giant digital billboard on the side of the highway. They're meant to get the attention of people who might be interested, even if they aren't looking for you at that exact moment.
Okay, so we know what they're for, but what do they actually look like and where do we see them? This is what we can call the digital ad canvas.
And let me tell you, this scale is just huge. We're talking about a network that covers millions upon millions of websites, your favorite apps, and video platforms. Basically, almost anywhere you go online that isn't a search engine is part of this gigantic canvas where ads can pop up.
So the most basic version is just a static image ad. Honestly, it's pretty much a digital version of a classic magazine ad, just a simple, direct picture trying to tell you something.
Then you have the next step up, animated ads. These use a little bit of motion, like those GIFs or some fancier animations, and they're all designed with one single purpose: to catch your eye. That little flicker of movement is there to make your brain go, hey, what's that? And of course, there are the video ads. You know these ones all too well. They're the short clips that play before your YouTube video starts, or maybe those super short 6-second ads that you can't even skip. Yep, they all fall under the same big umbrella. So, advertisers have all these different ad formats to choose from. But just throwing them all over the internet would be a huge waste of money, right? The real power, the secret sauce, is in showing them to the right people. It's all about finding the right eyeballs. And that's where targeting comes in. It's the name of the game, really. It's the whole process of putting the perfect ad in front of the perfect person on the perfect website at the perfect time. This is what makes that digital billboard feel less like a billboard and more like a personal message. Targeting really breaks down into two main flavors. First, you've got audience targeting. That's all based on who you are, your age, your interests, what you've done online before. And second, there is contextual targeting, which is based on what you are looking at right this second. So what does who you are actually mean online? Well, it can be basic stuff, like your demographics, or it can be what's called an affinity audience, meaning you have a long-term passion, like you're a foodie or a huge sports fan. It could also mean you're in an in-market audience, where the data suggests you're actively shopping for something, like a new car. And then there's the big one, remarketing. And right here, this is the magic trick explained. This is how that ad follows you around. It's a process called remarketing. Step 1. You visit a website or use an app. Step 2. A tiny little piece of code, called a cookie, gets saved to your browser, which adds you to an anonymous list. Step 3. Now that brand can show you specific ads on all the other websites you visit that are part of the network. It feels like magic, but really, it's just a clever use of data. Okay, so these ads are being shown to super specific groups of people, but how does an advertiser know if it's actually working? Especially if the goal is something kind of fuzzy like awareness. Well, it all comes down to how you measure the impact. One of the biggest numbers they look at is impressions. That's just a fancy word for how many times an ad was shown on a screen. A big campaign might get, 1 million impressions, which sounds amazing, right? It's all about measuring how many people saw it.
But now, let's look at the clicks that came from that million views. Maybe it's only 1,500. And here's the key. For these kinds of campaigns, a low number of clicks doesn't mean it failed. The goal wasn't always to get an immediate click. A lot of the time, the goal was just for you to see it and remember that brand later.
But that brings up a really good question, doesn't it? What about all those people who saw the ad, were totally influenced by it, but didn't click? Maybe they just searched for the brand later on their own. How do you possibly measure that? Well, this is where a really important metric comes into play. It's called a view-through conversion, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It tracks when someone sees an ad, doesn't click, but then later goes to that company's website on their own and buys something. This is absolutely critical for proving that an ad had influence, even if it didn't get the click. All right, let's boil this all down. What are the big things to remember? First, display and video ads are all about building brand awareness. Second, they are not the same as search ads, which are there to capture someone who's already looking. Third, the secret sauce is targeting, using who you are and what you're looking at. And finally, success is about way more than just clicks. It's about views and influence over time.
So, next time you see that ad following you from site to site, you'll know exactly what's going on behind the scenes. Which leads me to one last question for you to think about. Now that you know the strategy, will you ever look at online ads the same way again?